Zapper. With its distinctive sound and futuristic design, the Zapper is an NES peripheral that is like none other. And that's a good thing. A great many of them are terrible. The Zapper came in two fashionable color choices, but actually it wasn't a choice. All Zappers were gray upon their original release in 1985. But in 1987, a new federal regulation was put in place in the US requiring all toy guns to be a blaze orange or brighter. Thus, the orange Zapper was born, and its population is far more plentiful than that of the gray variety. The Zapper is just one of the many light guns released over the years, and arguably the most popular. The first light gun game was released all the way back in 1936. The Seeburg Rayolite was the original duck hunt. A wooden duck outfitted with a light sensor would fly around, while the patron would attempt to shoot it with a rifle that shot a beam of light when the trigger was pulled. Upon being shot, the duck would fall. This invention was very popular, and many different models were subsequently released, with different animals and people to shoot, including alterations made by third parties that blatantly targeted people's fears and emotions during a time of war, including my personal favorite, entitled Buy Defense Bonds and Stamps, which featured a Hitler figurine as a target. Despite its misleading label as a light gun, the Zapper does not emit some kind of object-sensing beam of light. Instead, it has a light sensor that detects the light from your TV set. When you shoot the gun, an electrical circuit is briefly broken, which tells the game it's time to switch to bullet mode. During bullet mode, the screen turns completely black for one frame, then each target area is illuminated for one frame each. The light sensor detects that brief change from dark to light, so if it's aimed at a white area, then you've hit a target and get some points. If you've missed the shot, you will not be aimed at an illuminated area, the gun will detect no change from dark to light, and you get a laughing dog. But how does it know what target you've hit? Games frequently had multiple targets on the screen. Not only does the Zapper detect changes from dark to light, as the pixels are drawn from left to right and top to bottom, it also detects exactly what point on the screen you are aimed at. This makes it possible to have many targets on the screen simultaneously. This is also the reason why the Zapper and other light guns do not work on any LCD or HD TV. These devices refresh the whole screen at once. The Zapper has a range of approximately 6 feet, while the cord is 8 feet long, giving you a good 2 feet of slack. Of course, many children just held the Zapper right up to the TV set. While this tactic is frowned upon, it's technically not cheating, because it says nowhere in the rules how far you have to stand back. Another popular technique for cheating in light gun games is to aim the gun at an incandescent light bulb. This is supposed to trick the gun because it thinks it's picking up the illumination from the target area. While this may work with another gun, or perhaps some games that I don't own, I have never been able to use this technique with any success using the Zapper. I even tried turning the light on as I pulled the trigger to simulate the black frame at the beginning of bullet mode, but it still failed to produce any results other than completely missing the target. Furthermore, despite being told by numerous sources that this technique does indeed work, I can't find a YouTube video that shows this trick in action. My guess is that this trick doesn't work for the same reason you cannot use the Zapper with an HD TV. The Zapper is an easy enough tool to use. Just point and aim. The target should be aligned with the front and rear sights. It can also be used for menu selection by pointing the gun away from the screen to scroll through options, and then pointing at the screen to select an option. Including unlicensed games, there were only 17 light gun games released during the NES's lifespan of 10 years in the US and 20 years in Japan. This is probably because there was only so much you could do with it. Actually, there was only one thing you could do with it: shoot things. You couldn't hold in the trigger to perform any different types of tasks like dragging objects around, nor were there any other buttons for perhaps selecting another type of projectile or directing the motion of the character in the game. It had one button that did one thing well. Gotcha, the Sport is a paintball game that combines the forces of controller and Zapper. You scroll left and right with the controller and shoot your enemies with the Zapper. You must be playing the part of a superhuman paintball guru, because in this game of Capture the Flag, you are a one-man team that is perfectly capable of taking on dozens of paintball gun-wielding enemies and returning the enemy flag to your base. Other games utilize both controller and Zapper, but confine each to their own levels. Of these hybrid games, a popular example is Bayou Billy, which has 3 types of levels: beat-em-ups, driving, and shooting. To the Earth is the lone space shooter of the small library of Zapper games, and it's tough. You lose hit points for every shot you miss, every rock and enemy projectile that hits you, and for shooting an allied ship. So your aim must be impeccably precise, all while tiny spaceships and meteorites are flying everywhere, zooming on and off the screen at incredible speeds. Your arm will get tired, your trigger finger will get tired, your eyes will get tired. It's a painful experience. Hogan's Alley was a launch title in the US where the player is training to be a federal agent by shooting cardboard cutouts of men wielding guns while trying to avoid shooting old men, young ladies, and police officers. You start off training on a simple lineup. Then the second step in this rigorous training regimen spices things up by adding scenery and cover for the bad dudes. They can peer out of windows or stroll into alleyways at any time, but so will innocent people. It's important to remember that bad guys never look like women wearing pink. Once you finish your training, the only logical thing to do next is shoot flying cans. But if you really want to test those skills you honed in Hogan's Alley, perhaps it's time you sign up for Special Ops and take part in Operation Wolf. As the screen scrolls, you'll have to shoot enemies, pick up power-ups by shooting them, and avoid civilian casualties. You can play this game solely with a controller or with a zapper and a controller, since you have to push the trigger and the B button on the controller in order to throw a grenade. Of course, everyone's favorite is Duck Hunt. Everyone owned it, and it was a great zapper game with 3 variations of increasing difficulty. It also has a seldom used 2-player mode, where one player controls the bird with the D-pad while the other tries to shoot it. While some may say that it lacks in moral support because of the laughing dog that pops up when you miss a bird, surely it makes up for this by praising you after every 10th level you complete. Needless to say, there are a couple of other zapper games of varying difficulty and quality, but none offer any surprises. If you enjoy practicing your aiming, you're going to enjoy a light gun game. So have fun playing with your zapper, but remember these 3 important rules. 1. Do not pull or tug on the zapper cord or swing the zapper around. 2. Do not drop or strike the zapper. Use it with care. And 3. Do not point the zapper toward the sun.